recap, Troy.
All right, it's recording. So
Well, good evening, Joe. We in the week 2 already.
yes, sir.
The Wildcats are 2-0. I don't think after anyone's surprised, but they played a gutsy Troy team, got the victory, took care of business. I came away with mixed but good results, as I would
Hmm.
call it.
Yeah, I was pretty happy overall with the game. I noticed Will Howard was a little off, and I think I even mentioned that to you as the game was going on. Uh, wasn't really crisp with his passes, wasn't really accurate, especially in the first half.
Right.
Um, his numbers ended up okay for the game, but he seemed really off there in the first half, and I don't know what the deal is with that. Um, Obviously, didn't affect the outcome of the game at all or anything like that. But I thought the defense played great. Will Lee, especially in that first half, was all over the field.
Mm-hmm.
He blanketed whatever receiver he was covering. And that's another thing. Troy has some good receivers. They
They
made
had some
some
very
great
good
catches.
receivers.
And really, um, that's kind of what kept them in the game in the first half was just their receivers making some outstanding catches. But anyway, back to Will Lee. I thought he played outstanding there in the first half. Just was all over the field. Um, really played great. And between him and Jacob Parrish, I think we have a couple of the best cornerbacks in the league. Obviously, I haven't seen them all in person or very many in
Right.
person as far as this year's rosters, but I can't imagine any other team having better cornerbacks than we have.
No, I can't agree with you more, Joe. I was very impressed with Will Lee, especially his ability to be able to come up and tackle,
Right.
uh,
Yeah.
especially into the boundary. He was very aggressive in tackling. He got his first interception, which has contributed to some great pressure we had as well. But 42-13, Joe, we still can't complain. But I think
No.
there was a couple key moments. The Phillip Brooks touchdown right before the half, I think
Hmm.
really changed the momentum of the entire game. It was pretty a nip and tuck game until that touchdown. And then I thought we really got a little breathing room.
Yeah, we really needed that touchdown there at the end of the half, and I was happy to see that. I was a little bit nervous right before that happened. I thought, well, we got to get things going here and kind of put things away here. But that Troy was sticking around, and we talked about last week. They're a good team, they're a good program. They weren't just going to lay down coming to Manhattan. They played pretty well, especially in that first half. So yeah, that touchdown to Brooks right before halftime was huge. It was huge in the game.
Now it was a momentum changer. The game itself, I did like the way Troy really adjusted and almost kind of for a period shut our run game down. Um,
Yes.
they
Yeah.
were they were doing some movement up front. They was stemming and stunting and getting off blocks. They did an incredible job containing our run game for a period. And Collins was stubborn to stay with it. He
Yeah.
finally opened it up a little bit and kind of got away from it. But then we had some success later once we got the passing game back in order and we made a few adjustments. But I think that's something that we're definitely going to have to adjust coming into the Missouri game because I think the Missouri defense overall is a better unit than Troy, but Troy's front seven did play well.
Yeah, they did. And that I'm glad you mentioned that because yeah, it was two or three drives there in a row where we weren't getting any yards rushing. And like you said, Troy shut us down pretty good. Um, Yeah, that did concern me. But then, like you said, near the end of the game, it really wasn't a concern because the
Right.
passing game got going. That opened up the rushing holes. So yeah, we'll have to run the ball against Missouri. That there's no doubt about that. We want to win
No,
that game.
we definitely have to run the ball against Missouri. Um, Before we're going to have a guest today, Joe, Mike Jones, former linebacker slash fullback for the University of Missouri Tiger, but is most famous for his the tackle in the Super Bowl over Tennessee, where the Rams won the Super Bowl in 2000. He's going to join us here in about 10 minutes on the show to talk about this upcoming Mizzou K-State kind of renewed rivalry.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to talking to him and meeting him. And you've known him for a long time. I played against him when you played at K State and he played at Missouri. So you go way back.
No, no doubt. But I do want to talk about our big ballers of the game, and I think we kind of know where we're heading. But some contenders, first and foremost, is Mr. Will Lee. Will Lee had an interception, two tackles for loss, uh, plus another total six solo tackles. Very impressive day. He was everywhere around the ball, and you can just see the excitement and the impact that he made from the secondary position. And like I said earlier, I was very impressed with him in coming up and making tackles.
Absolutely. Yeah, we talked about him earlier, and I was very impressed with him in the first half. And he was, um, they were blocking him pretty well. And he was getting off those blocks and still getting to the running back. So,
Yeah, he was very physical at the point of attack.
yeah,
That's what I'm saying. He was able to get off the blocks, shed it, hold his ground, play his position to be physical and make some tackles, which is very impressive.
yeah.
Another candidate for the big baller of the day still has to go to Will Howard. Even though he looked shaky, he was still 21 of 32 with three touchdowns. He did
Mm-hmm.
have 250 yards
And two rushing touchdowns, I believe.
and two rushing touchdowns, and he rushed for 33 yards with an average of 4.1. So, not a shabby day. The
No,
one interception was not good though. That
no,
was I don't know where he was going. He lost sight of the ball or what was happening, but that was not a good interception, meaning that it was just very blatant.
right.
So he's definitely one of my contenders. Also, Phillip Brooks, 7 receptions, 94 yards, and a touchdown. I thought that Phillip Brooks really was explosive and electric on that touchdown. A lot of people thought that was just going to be a normal crossing route, but he turned it on and made it into 6 points.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That was a great
Very,
play.
very impressed with him. So that was another one. And my final contender for the big baller once again is, and we say this name every week. I think the guy's just so consistent. Once again, is Austin Moore. Six
Mm-hmm.
tackles, five solo, one assist. He didn't have a sack or interception, but he was just once again steady Eddie for the defense. That was rock solid,
Yeah.
particularly in the second half.
Yep. He's all over the field all the time, and it's weird. You don't really hear his name much or really notice it much, but then you look at the stats at the end of the game, and he's leading the team in tackles again.
No, once
So
again, he's right there. But
yeah.
the overall choice, and I think we've kind of decided this even after the game, is Mr. Will Lee from St. Louis, Missouri, Kirkwood High School. He's in my neck of the woods. Just came into camp in the spring from Iowa Wesleyan Junior College. I think we've landed a gem of a cornerback who's a guy that was, for those who don't know, Joe, he was very highly recruited Had offers from Alabama, Florida State. We beat out a couple very big time programs to get him. And I think he's going to be, along with Jacob Parrish, these two guys are going to make some very exciting corners for the next couple of years.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting to watch those two every game. I think.
Look like we got our good friend Mike Jones to come in, world champion, Super Bowl champion, Mr. Mike Jones. How you doing, my brother?
I'm doing great. How about yourself, Reggie?
Hey man, I'm glad you're able to jump in with my good friend Joe Matthew. Joe is a K-Stater. We do a BLEAV K-State podcast every week, talking all K-State football and basketball. But we got a big one this week, K-State and Mizzou, part 2.
Mike, thanks for joining us. Good to meet you.
Hey, nice meeting you as well.
Thanks.
Hey, Mike, I just want to start off. Me and you, I told Joe, we played against each other a couple of years. You're a couple of years older than me, and you was playing fullback. So we actually banged heads against each other a couple times before you switched and went on the defensive side of the ball.
Right.
Tell me about just your experience of the K-State Mizzou rivalry, because we go back to the Big 8.
Yeah, you know what? It was you're talking many moons ago, Reggie.
Right.
So we had a bunch of, it was a different era in football, but Big 8 football was up. You know that. I mean, Nebraska, Oklahoma, Colorado, Oklahoma State. You got Barry Sanders. We saw some very talented guys come through that conference, and the level of play was extremely high. So, every week was a battle, and, of course, playing against you and K-State, we both were programs that were trying to emerge at the time.
Right.
We both were struggling. You guys, about 4, took off, under Coach. Coach did a phenomenal job. Still to this day, everyone talks about him. But, what he built there, is ironic because we got recruited by the same guy, Coach Cole, Charlie Cole.
Yeah.
So there's so many different things. We ran parallel and didn't even really know each other, and other than playing against each other. So it was a great experience playing in the Big 8. I mean, you just had great competition every single week. It didn't matter if you were 0-9 and 9-0. You got someone that was going to play hard every week and play against you. So, and you had some pretty good coaches at the time. So, it was a challenge. Like I said, both our programs were starting to emerge, trying to emerge. We couldn't get over the hump. You guys did a phenomenal job of getting over the hump. So, the years I played against K-State, I remember my first year, my freshman year, you guys, it was a tough battle. Year 2, same thing. Year 3, and then year 4. So every year was a battle playing against K-State.
Yeah. It always was. Hey, Joe, just to kind of parallel to what Mike was saying, to bring it together, Charlie Cole, who used to coach me at Kansas State, coached at the University of Missouri before he came to Kansas State. So he actually recruited Mike Jones and then came from the University of Missouri to Snyder's staff at K-State a couple years later.
Oh, okay. Is he still around?
Now, Charlie, he's coaching Missouri,
at
Mobap in St. Louis. Yes, he's still coaching.
Oh, okay, cool.
But this got to be what year is this? Because close to 40. If it's not 40,
it's got to be 40 plus.
Yeah, he's one of them guys that he just can't stop coaching. The minute he stopped coaching, he's, like I said, he's gonna be one of the guys that coach to the very end. So he loves coaching. He loves impacting young men. Just small thing about Coach Cole. I mean, Coach Cole probably had close to 20 first-round draft picks that he actually recruited and signed at the schools he was at. So he's had 20 plus first rounders, over 100 plus guys, men that played in the NFL. So I mean, he's a heck of a recruiter and a heck of a coach.
Yeah, he's a guy, Joe.
He's an alumnus, right?
He's alumni. He's a guy we'll definitely have on the show, Joe, because he actually played baseball at Kansas State. To be ironic. Yeah, he's a baseball player from the St. Louis area. Go ahead, Joe. You got something for Mike?
Well, Mike, just kind of talk a little bit about, when I first met Reggie, I wanted to know, how he got recruited at K-State, kind of his whole story about his recruitment, how he ended up at K-State, and then kind of his whole career. So could you tell us, how you ended up at Missouri, how your recruitment went, and then, how you ended up, getting drafted in the NFL, and maybe kind of talk about your story?
My story is a little different. Like I said, when I came out, I'm from the Kansas City area. So when I came out of high school, Mizzou didn't really know what they wanted to do with me. I was a kind of a hybrid. I wasn't really I was a linebacker, didn't know how to play linebacker. I was a running back, didn't know how to run the ball. I was a wide receiver that wasn't real fast. So I was kind of mixed a whole bunch of different things. So when I got to Mizzou really didn't know what I was going to be. So I was like one of the first guys they called an athlete because they didn't know what they was going to do with me. So when I got there, I fell into something because they ran a wishbone, and the best thing for me and probably the worst thing for me, because the best thing meaning I could play early, was that I didn't have to learn a lot about reading blocks as a fullback in a wishbone. You were on the track, and typically if they gave you the ball, they gave you the ball because wasn't anybody there, and if they didn't give you the ball, you about to get lit up. So
Yeah.
so it wasn't real hard to figure out real fast. If I got the ball, I better figure out how to do something. So, I was fortunate to play and start as a freshman. And then my sophomore year, they moved me to a different position. They moved me to the halfback in the wishbone. So then my junior year, we got a coaching change, and I moved to a tailback in the I formation. And then my last year, as crazy as it sounds, I played 4 different running back positions in 4 different systems in college. So, but the whole time, it was talk about me playing linebacker. So long story short, I go to the combine as a running back. I do okay. I get to the draft. I'm thinking I'm gonna get drafted. As a matter of fact, I was the highest rated player at Mizzou my senior year, and I go from the highest rated to not getting drafted. And so when I come out, and Reggie knows this, there was another guy that people confused me with. His name is Mike Jones too. And so I got a phone call in the 11th round. There was 12 rounds in the draft. The 11th round, I get a call from Cleveland saying, and then from the Raiders saying, we thinking about taking you to the 11th round as a linebacker. So I had got calls all during the offseason. I'm confusing Mike Jones and Saints at North Carolina State and me. So I thought they had me confused again. So when the draft is almost over, and Harold Lewis, who was my agent, he called me and said, go to the airport. You're going out to L.A. So at the time, think about this. At the time, the Rams were an I formation team in which I wasn't an I back running back, and then the Raiders had Bo Jackson, Marcus Allen, and Steve Smith, who was a fullback. So I'm thinking to myself, why in the world you guys flying me out to L.A. and the city that probably the least place I would go was L.A. He's like, well, the Raiders want to talk to you about playing linebacker. I was like, what? And all this is happening. You got to realize this is pre-cell phones. So I'm talking at my mom's house to my agent, and he's talking me into getting on a plane to fly out to LA to possibly move positions the day I don't get drafted. So I had all that together, and I'm up here like, man, I done got the wrong agent. The guy ain't representing me right. I'm just thinking all this stuff in my head. So I go out to LA, I work out. They take me out there, and I ran well running a 40. So my first 240s, I ran sub 4.5 at 220 pounds. And then they made me run a third time, which I figured out why, because they wanted to get on the clock. I ran slower than a 4.5. I ran a 4.5 like 1. So I ran like 4.48, 4.47, and then like 4.51. So then they take me through all the linebacker drills. So I hadn't played linebacker since high school. So I go through the drills. I take a shower. They bring me back. They say they want to sign me as a linebacker. So I'm like, well, wait a minute. I have not played linebacker since my senior year in high school. Nothing. I had been a running back. I hadn't even went to a defensive meeting in college. I'm like, why you guys move me a linebacker? They're like, well, do you know what you did at the combine? I was like, yeah, I did all right. I said, what'd you run? I said, I ran like 4.6 something. I said, I didn't run well for a running back. I said, I tested well though. I jumped well. I had like a 37, 38 inch vertical. I had like a 10.6 broad jump. I think I had the longest broad jump there as a running back. He said, well, based on your numbers, you out tested every linebacker except one guy. and that was Roman Pfeiffer, who was a second-round draft pick. So he said, we're going to give you somewhere around 7th, 8th round money. So if we do well, we got second-round talent for 7th round money. If we don't do well, it's a 50-50 shot anyway with 7th and 8th round draft picks anyway. He said, so we're in a win-win situation. So I moved to linebacker. Of course, I had a great coach, and Gunther Cunningham showed me a lot of different things. I went to World League and learned how to play better with Jim Haslett. So, and it was a position I should have played. I fought it all during college. People talked about me moving, but I didn't want to move. I wanted to prove everybody wrong and prove I was a running back. Well, like I said, that cost me second round money. If I would, that not saying I would have been a second round draft pick, but if I had a chance to play linebacker, you never know what would have happened. So, so I always mess with and then to go a step further, the reason why the Raiders even looked at me was because my running back coach filled out a questionnaire, and he said he thought I'd be an average running back at best, but he thought I'd be a great linebacker in the NFL. That is my running back coach saying this to the scouts. So that's great that it worked out that way, but it's not great when you don't get drafted. So
right.
That's a hell of a story, Mike, and some of that I realized, but I did remember that both two names are Mike Jones coming out of the draft at the same time. So tell us a little bit, Mike, your transition from being with the Raiders to how'd you end up on the Rams roster?
Again, like I said, every place I ended up is a place I never thought I would be. I never thought I would go to the Raiders. The Rams, when I got done my 6 year at the Raiders, I was a decent. I wasn't the highest rated linebacker, but I was a decent rated free agent. So I thought I was going to end up either in Miami or Tampa Bay. And the only reason why I thought that, Jimmy Johnson and when the free agency started, he was blowing Harold up. But he thought, and same with Tampa Bay, they thought because I was an undrafted free agent that they could lowball me. They thought, well, he's a free agent. We're going to give him free agent money as he's going to get a lot more money than what he made, but that's still not what a starting linebacker is getting. So they lowballed me. Tampa Bay did. They signed another guy. And then Miami kept lowballing me. And what happened, my head coach with the Raiders, Mike White, is best friends with Dick Vermeil. So Mike gets to St. Louis, and they call and say they want me to come over to Rams Park. Now, this is 4 weeks into free agency.
Right.
So, all the top signings already done.
And mindful, you played 6 years in the league already.
Yeah, I played 6 years. So I call my agent and tell him I'm not going over there. He's like, why aren't you going over there? I said, Harold, you got one. He has another linebacker over there, and both of us are represented by Harold. And so I knew he was there. Lewis Bush. I don't know if you remember Lewis.
Yeah,
Lewis was over there. So I'm like, come on, Harold, I can't go over there when not only is another I understand other linebacker being there, but another guy that you represent is going to be over there. And so he's like, Mike, go over there. Mike, he wants you to come over there. So I go over there. I didn't even have an official visit. I just go over to Rams Park just to talk to Mike. Mike takes me in, unbeknownst to me. Mike, I should have known something was up. Mike takes me over to meet Coach Vermeil while Lewis is there, and then I meet with the defensive coordinator. I go back home. I get a phone call. Harold tells me they want to take me to dinner. So I meet Coach Vermeil, Mike White, Peter Junta. We go out to eat. We sit down to eat. They call me back the next day and say they want to sign me. So that's how I ended up with St. Louis. It wasn't even an official visit. It was a guy that used to coach me calling, and my agent telling me that I need to go to Rams Park. 2 days later, I'm a St. Louis Ram.
Wow.
Yep.
Great. That's a great story. That's a great story.
Man, I can talk to you all day, Mike.
I tell people all the time, I'm like the Forrest Gump of the NFL. Stuff you look like, how in the world did Mike Jones end up where he was at? It just was just so many different things throughout my course, from college to NFL, even coaching high school football. I mean, I went to Hazelwood East I had never seen them play before. My best friend's the assistant head coach. I go watch them the first time, run my mouth saying, I want to, if you got something over, let me know. the defensive coordinator leaves. I get a call a month later, ask me do I want to coach at Hazelwood East, and then I started coaching high school football. So
Right.
it just
Right.
stuff. But Reggie knows this. I mean, you people connect, and you look at me like, man, how in the world I end up right here? And that's what happened.
So, Mike, take me through. I mean, obviously, one of your highest moments of your career, the Rams winning the Super Bowl in 2000.
Yep.
You make basically the final play to save the Rams season. That's called the tackle, and your life took a life of its own, a whirlwind tour after that. Um, Walk me through that play. Walk me through what was happening. Were you in the right position? Let's just go through that last play, that tackle against the Titans.
But it is a defense we ran, and it was our base defense. We ran and our defense was the guy that started our defense is Bud Carson, and everyone that knows Bud Carson, he was the architect of the Pittsburgh Steelers. A lot of people don't realize every place that Bud went, they were number one in every category in defense, against the
Right.
run, against the
Right.
pass, and against scoring. I mean, he wasn't just good at stopping the pass. He wasn't just good at stopping the run. He wasn't good at just in the red zone. He was great at everything. And so the defense we ran was a base defense that the Steelers used to run. The Steelers ran two things. They ran cover two, and then they also ran, they ended up changing to cover seven. Seven
Okay.
is a dual call. It's one side you play one thing, the other side you play
And
another.
play another. Right.
Yeah, but you can play it anywhere on the field, and that was the beauty of it. So we ran our base defense. We called it 77 blast. The 77 was 7 on both sides, and then the blast was a line stunt. So and the defense is based on what the offense does. So you'll line up, and if they were in two wide receivers, but they were opened up. So we had a call where basically it was basically a zone defense. It was basically like in basketball, it was a match zone. So if someone ran through your zone, you carried them through. I always had low to high vertical. So I had the first guy that would go vertical, but I always had to come back for the low cut. So when the ball snapped, Frank Wycheck is going vertical. So when you see it on the film, it looks like I'm running with Frank, and I don't know, and I just come back. Well, the whole time you always see the back of my head. I'm running with Frank, but I'm looking through his shoulder at Kevin Dyson. Mm-hmm. So Kevin runs a route, and Reggie, you familiar with this? It's like an angle route for a running back. They'll run like they're running the flat, and they come underneath. Well, I'm looking at Kevin, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm gonna kill this guy because he don't even see me. And at the same time, I didn't know they had worked that during the week, and they knew I was gonna come off, and their plan was for Kevin to plant and just beat me to the goal line. So I planted when I see Kevin plant, and I'm coming downhill now. Having a running back run an angle route is a whole lot different than a wide receiver because they're closer to the line of scrimmage, and they're usually quicker. So it went from me making a kill shot to me just trying to get them on the ground. And the thing, like I said, the thing that a lot of people don't realize is when I tackled him, I wrap him up and I bring my arm around. And when you see me bring my arm around, you see my legs, I'm off the ground. I'm bringing my arm around, and I hit his leg right on the perfect spot. I hit it right on his knee, so he can't do anything but fall. So he just loses balance and falls, hits the ground, bouncing a roll, and it looks like it's still close, but it's not as close as everyone thought it was. So that was it. We did what we supposed to, and I say this all the time, everyone asks me what it was like. I'm like, I'm not downplaying the play. I said, but it's something I did every single day. It was making a tackle. It just so happened it was on the goal line at the Super Bowl.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And everyone, I have a handful of memories of the Super Bowl of certain plays. I watch the Super Bowl every year, ever since I was a kid. And that's one of the plays that I vividly remember, you making that tackle. And for some reason that is always stuck in my head. So, hey.
And it's so weird because when the game ends, this is what the thing about the Super Bowl, and Reggie knows this. Everything happens so fast after the game.
Right.
When it goes 0-0, you'll see the confetti coming down. They might show up for about 45 seconds, and they always go to a timeout for about a minute. And you got a minute to 2 minutes to set up the podium to get everybody up there. I mean, it's just a madhouse how they do it. So, and at that time, we were had those big podiums. I mean, the podium we had to be easily 15 feet up.
Right.
So, but it's small, so you can't fit everyone on there. So the game's over with. Everyone's celebrating. You take out your shoulder pads, and you're trying to get up on the stands, and the guys won't let me in. I'm like, wait a minute. They're like, oh, we got too many people on there. I said, oh no, this is not gonna happen. You're gonna figure out how to get me up on this pedestal. I mean, I don't know where they're gonna leave me out. Everybody else that was there, it's funny because all the guys that didn't play, and no knock on them, I love all my teammates, but the guys that don't play, the first ones on the doggone pedestal.
Right.
They standing there watching. So you got a lot of guys standing there looking like, man, wait a minute. So I think they changed it, but back then it was whoever was there first got on the pedestal first.
Yeah, that's crazy. Small world. Hey, Mike, before we let you go, a couple things back to pivot about Mizzou. Talk to me about Drinkeritz, Eli. He's done a tremendous job of recruiting, particularly in the St. Louis and Kansas City area the last few years that he's been there. Obviously, he's got Luther Burden, the star receiver, 5-star. They've been doing very good also this year in the Kansas City area. Talk to me about where you feel the Mizzou program is at. Is it trending right? Do they got the right leader? Are you confident in where they're trying to go as a program?
I think they had the right leader. I think we have to, playing in the SEC. This is where as a Mizzou fan, we had to start thinking bigger. The SEC is a whole different animal than almost every other conference, other than maybe the Big Ten. So when you're talking about the Tennessees, I'm gonna start at the middle part and work my way up. We'll say Florida, which is a sleeping giant. You're talking South Carolina, then you talk about then you start going a little higher. Texas A&M, which is doing what they're doing down there.
Right.
Alabama, Auburn, all these different traditional powerhouses in football that know what it takes to get to that level. We as fans, we as alumni, we have to take our game to another level. I think Coach Drink understands what it is. He's coaching the SEC, so he understands that. When you play on Saturdays, you understand that as a player. I think where we have to grow and myself included, as alumni and as fans of Mizzou, we got to take our game to a whole nother level. That's just the bottom line. The kids are the kids, the young men playing or the young men playing. They're going to recruit the best kids possible. The NIL makes it can be as level or unlevel as we make it. And I think that's where it starts and ends at. I think they have the right AD. I think Desiree does a phenomenal job up there. She's doing a great job. I think Drink is doing a very good job. He has good assistant coaches. He's getting the best players that he can. But again, you dealing with a different animal when you're talking about the SEC. So you got to be prepared as a fan and as an alumni to as they say, play accordingly.
So as a Missouri fan and alum, what I guess are your expectations for the number of wins, say, every year for Missouri? Or maybe even a finish in the SEC. Yeah.
That's a tough one because the West, Mizzou's in the East, So they're in the East. So the East is it Georgia's really taking off. So, you got a major undertaking in Georgia. Tennessee is really coming on. Florida now is a sleeping giant. You don't know what you're going to get in Florida. Florida can be very good or they can be extremely average. It all depends on how they manage the Gators. But I think 8 wins annually is very realistic. I think that getting to the SEC championship should be a goal every year because you get the right wins. If you get the right wins, you can get to the SEC championship. And then from there, anything goes. I mean, you get the SEC championship, you got a tremendous shot now with 12 teams coming in of making the playoffs. So now you're in playoff talks. But you have got to figure out how to get, first thing is 8 wins. Second thing is getting to the SEC championship. And then once you get to the SEC championship, then everything else is possible.
Well, Mike, I appreciate you saying that because I think a lot of times the Missouri fan base, and obviously, you know, I live in St. Louis. We live in St.
Right.
Louis, so
Mm-hmm.
we're around it all the time. I think they think the expectations is you can just turn it on and you can all of a sudden get 9 or 10 wins. I don't think they understand that it's a progression.
Oh,
You gotta get, you know, 6 to 7, then you gotta start, like you said, consistently 8 wins, a couple
yep.
seasons in a row.
Mm-hmm.
And then once you take that next step, if the things fall right, you don't always got to necessarily beat Georgia, but you got to be competitive, and you
Right.
could put yourself in a position to win that division, and things could fall right. And
I think, you know what, and this ironic thing, Reggie, I really believe, you know, in a cycle of they're gonna play in 4 years, Mizzou should win 1 out of 4.
right,
You get 1 at home, and I'm dead serious. And the reason why I'm saying that, when you are playing in conference against a team all the time, that is hard. It's hard to constantly beat people all the time like that. You
right,
get, I mean, that team might have a down day. You might be up more than what you used to. You playing at home, you might be. I mean, there's a whole bunch of factors when you playing interdivision, interconference games that make it. There's a reason why those games are always tighter because you know them better, so
right.
you should be able to play them better.
And anybody can beat anybody, like you say,
There
because you're
Well,
so familiar with one another
anybody can win on any given
on a
Saturday.
given
Right,
day. Right,
right,
right.
right, right. I mean,
It
talent
it
level is talent level. You can't hide that.
No,
So
you can't hide that. You're right.
it does seem like Drinkwitz is under a lot of heat and pressure, and maybe on the hot seat even this season from a lot of the or a certain portion of the Missouri fan base. I find that a little bit interesting. It seems he's been recruiting lights out, in my opinion. I think
yep.
the play on the field has been a little disappointing to a lot of fans, but I find it interesting, putting that kind of 8-win consistently level as an expectation. I've got a lot of Missouri friends, and they're just not happy with Drinkwitz right now. So,
I mean, you know what? I think for 2 things. I tell you what really hurt Drink last year, and I'm just gonna be candid. Losing to K-State last year, not knocking K-State, but both programs were kind of in the same. I think the head coach of K-State, that was year 3 for him, right?
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that was year 3 for Drink. See, you got to
Yeah.
realize there's certain things you're gonna look at. Why is K-State in year 3 going and winning the Big 12 or playing for the Big 12 championship, and we're at 6 wins and can barely make a bowl game that's before Christmas. That's a problem. I mean, you can say whatever you want to. That's a problem. And K-State has the similar alumni base. You got the Kansas City area, and you got the St. Louis area. Mizzou got St. Louis and Kansas City. So the same fans are looking at the same thing, and they're saying, "Hey, wait a minute, that guy at K-State doing a heck of a job over there." And not saying Drink ain't doing a good job, but when you comparing apples to apples, you're gonna be like 10 wins, 6 wins.
Yeah.
Or they 4-win team better? I mean, and like I said, I like Drink, and I think Drink understands that dynamic, and that's part of being a big time coach. When I mess with him all the time. I was like, you can play a little bit, but hey man, you getting $4 million. Hey, you know what? People gonna complain when they paying you $4 million, no matter what. You can win 10 games. They're gonna tell you need to win 11. So
Exactly.
so I mean, that's just the nature of the beast. So hopefully, like I said, I think this year 8 wins, a better bowl, because SEC you will get a better bowl by winning 8 games. So he'll get a better bowl by winning 8 games, and that's again the factor that they need to get into 8 wins and move from there.
Well,
Yeah.
that's why before we wrap this up, Mike, you hit it on the head. I think both programs know this Saturday is a pivotal game
Mm-hmm.
because for Missouri, we mentioned it. If they can somehow start off the season 3-0 and
Yep.
have a victory over the Big 12 champions, who
Mm-hmm.
still predicted this year to be one of the top 2, 3 teams in the Big 12, that's
Mm-hmm.
going to go a long way for their confidence and
Yep.
set them up as they begin to go into SEC play.
Yep.
Same thing for Kansas State. We can't afford to lose to a team that is perceived to be towards the lower bottom of the SEC. We've
Right.
got to beat that if we want to be a program that is going to be consistently playing for Big 12 championships and having the next higher aspiration, which is to turn that corner and to try to get a playoff bid. We've
Mm-hmm.
got to beat teams like Missouri. So that's what's
Absolutely.
going to make it compelling this Saturday.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That's it. That's it. So yeah, we
So,
got
Mike, what are your thoughts about Saturday?
well Saturday. Um, I mean, it's gonna be a challenge without a doubt. Hold on, I'm sorry. Saturday's gonna be a challenge without a doubt. Uh, Mizzou, I think last year they walked into something they weren't prepared for. I'll just be candid with you. K-State came with an energy that Mizzou could not match from the opening kickoff on. There was you could feel the intensity from K-State. Mizzou was out there playing football, and that's not a good when you're playing in a hostile environment like up in Manhattan. That's not good for a team. So when you look at this week, I think this week's going to help them from last year's experience. Going to hopefully help them this year to know that when we got to have intensity, not starting Saturday at 11 o'clock. They had to start Tuesday when they started practicing to understand what's going on. Yep.
So, should we ask Mike for his official prediction?
You're right. We should get Mike's official prediction. I think we know.
He's being too vague. I don't like it.
I gotta go with the Tigers now. Come on,
we know you rocking with the Tigers.
Right,
We know.
right.
We know.
Seriously, my prediction is this. Like I said, Mizzou's defense last week didn't play at the level. They learned something last week against Middle Tennessee State. I think they learned that yes, we have a good defense, but we're only as good as how hard we play. And I don't think the kids don't try, but there is a certain level when you're saying you're a top level defense, and I think K-State understands this. I think that's where that is right now the difference to me. I know offensively, K-State can pound the ball with you, but I think defensively, K-State last year had an edge that was like no other. And I think the Mizzou didn't have that. And after that game, they started getting better at it. I think last week helped them. I think to be candid with you, Middle Tennessee State's game against Mizzou was how they played against K-State last year. It's just that they just had more athletes and more players, and they can beat Middle Tennessee State because of that. I'm hoping that's a wake-up call. I'm hoping that's one of those games you look overlooking someone, and now you're gonna get down and and be ready to play ball. That's what I'm hoping again. So my prediction, I predict Mizzou 28, K-State 24.
Well, Mike,
I would expect nothing less.
I'd expect nothing less from you. I'm assuming you're going to be in Columbia. I will be there.
I'll be there too.
And Joe will
we'll
be
catch
there.
up guys before the game starts.
Yeah, sounds good, man.
So we'll catch up. I'll hit you on the horn, and we'll be in the parking lot doing a little tailgating before the game. But definitely looking forward to hanging out.
Okay,
I'm rocking with the Cats.
there you go.
42-28.
Wow. Hey, man. Oh, goodness great. Are they gonna run 2 kicks back or something? I mean,
We're
goodness.
gonna do something. We're gonna do
Man,
something in the special team. We're gonna do
okay.
something in the special.
You know what? You know what, Reggie? That's a good point, though. I
Yeah,
didn't take that into consideration. K-State
we
does play
we
great special
we
teams.
we average 40 points a game, and the conditions are going to be suitable because we can't always ask for a great. Your offense is going to click. They're going to move the ball a little bit, but I think our offense got a few wrinkles, and we didn't play as well, even though we scored 42 points against Troy last week. I think they got a little chip on their shoulder. So, I look forward to be nip and tuck. But I think the difference will be something in the special teams, either punt or kickoff.
Yep. Okay. Well, that makes sense.
All
That
right,
makes sense.
Mike.
All right.
Mike,
I
hey,
appreciate
we
you, Reggie.
appreciate you.
Okay. Thanks.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks,
Thank
Mike.
you.
Yeah.
See you this
Bye.
weekend. Have a good
Bye.
one. Well, Joe, that was very entertaining with Mike Jones. Appreciate him taking the time,
Good stuff.
going over some stuff with us, BLEAV in K-State. Hey, as we wrap this up, I'm excited about the Cats' chances this week. Little bullish on the 42-28, might be a little bit closer than that. But I do think in the end that K-State is used to going on the road in hostile environments. I think Kleiman does something to get his team ready. They went into Oklahoma last year when Oklahoma was ranked very high. I don't think they're afraid of the moment. They understand the Mizzou rivalry. They know it's a little bit personal, not in a sense of as a KU rivalry, but they know this is kind of a bragging rights, a little bit in the kind of local territory, so to speak. So I think the guys will be prepared.
Yeah, I think so too. I think it'll be something around the score of 31-28. Missouri fans seem to think they're going to get blown out in this one. I just don't see it. I think it's going to be a close game most of the way, but I think K-State's going to do enough to get it done. If you compare the coaching staffs, I don't think there's a comparison between the two. I mean, Kleiman's going to outcoach Drinkwitz. I think that's obvious. So the coaching gives K-State a huge advantage over Missouri, even though the talent on the field is probably pretty even. So I think that's how K-State wins the game.
All right, that'll work. Well, looking forward to it, Joe. I will touch base with you later. Looking forward to tipping a cold one with you early Saturday morning
Sounds good, man.
before the Cats go out and take care of business against the Missouri Tigers.
All right. Sounds good. We'll see you Saturday.
See you Saturday. Take
All
care.
right.